Good morning. Today is Veterans Day. Yes. Used to be Armistice Day. But we want to honor all of you who have ever served in any way in the military. If you would stand, any of you in the room? Bravo. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your service. That little song kind of really touched my heart this morning. We're living in times where a lot of people are wondering how they can serve. And at the same time, we have lives to live and families to take care of and work to do. Today I want to talk about how to put it together and how to reignite perhaps an old passion that we have forgotten about, to bring it back up, and it probably will have something to do with serving. I want to start with a quote by E.B. White. See if you can relate to this. He said, "If the world were merely seductive, that would be easy. If it were merely challenging, that would be no problem. But I arise in the morning torn between a desire to improve or save the world and a desire to enjoy or savor the world. This makes it hard to plan my day." Can you relate to that? Yes. Yeah, I think this is a very real experience of those of us, especially in this teaching. It's as if there are two ways to live. One is if this were, as Shakespeare said, a stage and all the men and women are actors, a great drama. As Joseph Campbell said, he quoted the old Irish saying, is this a private fight or can anybody get into it? And that's one way to live life, just jump in, right? And the other is to be very present in the world but not of it. That's a spiritually charged point of view. To realize that this is somewhat illusory, and yet there's a cause for everything. And that each one of us is a player in at the cause level. That's what that song is really about. You know, let's start giving of our consciousness, of our knowing, of our love and our attention, and whatever else that we are led to give the world to help make it a better place for everybody. And one of the things, of course, is our teaching. Question, can we serve the world without sacrificing our joy in living? And can it be a both and? Well, sure. It takes a bit of thought. If we get mired in the illusion or the temporary nature of life, and don't see it as temporary, we fall prey to making it concrete, we get stuck, we're really of no help to anyone. We need to stay open to possibility. So we fall prey to the illusion when we feel sorry for people rather than compassionate. You know, His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, compassion is understanding the other guy's motivation. And if it's a behavior that is what we would call limited or negative, the motivation is always fear of some kind. So we begin there by realizing that that state of mind that is causing the behavior that we do not like, it's not furthering our joy in the world, is temporary. It's changeable. That's what compassion is. It's looking at what is, but seeing through it, judging not by appearances, but seeing possibility and having a passion for bringing it out in the other. So when we deny someone else the power to break through their own illusion of poverty or illness and restore the reality of wholeness and prosperity, it's called spiritual malpractice. It makes sense. We are seeing someone and calling them less than whole and less than spiritually led and without a possibility. That's what we do when we feel sorry for people. And that's what we do when we condemn people. It's easy to do, isn't it, to condemn people? I mean, you watch TV, and I find myself having to hold myself back because it's easy to react rather than see through it. So I think first we have to honor our own unrealized self. You know, if you go out into the world thinking you're going to fix the unfixable, you're going to get burned out pretty quickly. Anger is never a good motivation for change, and it really doesn't fare well for our personal life. So let's honor our unrealized self to see if we can't bring up some of those passions. I'll give you an example. I've talked about this in class, but when I was a little girl, 2, 3, 4 years old, I had this strong sense that I was supposed to tell people something. And I would walk around and in the backyard, in the swing, or wherever I was, I'd be trying to remember what it was I was supposed to tell people. And I couldn't remember it. So I gave up. I just let it go. All right, so listen to this little stanza from a poem by Antonio Machado that applies to us all and applies to myself as that child. He said, "I thought the fire was out. I stirred the ashes. I burnt my fingers." So what was a glowing ember in me was reignited when I walked into one of these places, these centers, and I heard this message for the first time. And I remembered what I was supposed to do in my life. There is no way I ever thought I'd be a minister of a church. That was like the last thing I would ever be. But that's where it took me when I reignited the passion for sharing what I knew to be deeply true with human beings, knowing it could be really, really positive in our lives. And not just me, but all of you are. We're spiritual emissaries, as it were, by how we show up in the world and what we talk about and what we believe to be true. And most importantly, how we see others. Can we see through the illusion of their fear and their limitation and draw out that passion, reignite it in some way, or be willing to? So this thing in us, this divine spark, the center of passion, is never extinguished by life's challenges. It never goes out. It's available to us right now. We can call it our heart's desire. We could call it our soul's purpose. You know, how many times you hear people in our teaching saying, I want to know what my purpose in life is? I can guarantee you it has something to do with serving. And that doesn't mean giving up your own happiness or your own pleasure in life. It's finding a way to give of your authentic self. And that, of course, has to do with our own spiritual growth. It has to do with our own discovery of who we really are. But you can discover a lot of who you really are when you're serving others. Do you know that? That's a great way to find out who you really are, is to put yourself right in the middle of a situation that needs some healing, needs some help, and you'll see, you'll pull out more of yourself than you even thought was there. Because there's something in us that knows, and knows how to respond, to bring forward that spark in others as well. So we're available right now to our heart's desire, and ask yourself, what would it take to turn that spark into a full-blown fire under our feet that would get us moving in a new direction? What would it take? And you can ask yourself a series of questions, and one of them is, what do I need to know to allow myself to feel the power of my soul's purpose? What do I need to know? First of all, we need to know there is one, right? That there is such a thing as the soul, and it is the divine in us, individualized as us. Its purpose is to express all that spirit is, and we turn that into human experiences. The power of love becomes human relationships of all kinds. Vitality is this raw energy that becomes individualized health and well-being. And intelligence turns itself into creative ideas and invention and discovery. All of these qualities of spirit are meant to be used by us. So we can ask ourselves, what am I not using that I could, that would help me to realize a greater possibility for how I can be in the world? What would it take? In our teaching, we have techniques. We have meditation, which helps us to go into that field of being. I was reading Matthew Fox the other day, and Rupert Sheldrake, he's the scientist that discovered morphic resonance, and he's a physicist, and he says, we talk about fields in spirituality, and he says, what are fields for? They're to play in. The field of mind is meant to be a playground for us to consider possibilities. Imagination is a field to play in. And so that's what we want to give our mind an opportunity to do, is to play. And we do it by preparing the mind with meditation. Because what meditation does, and we're still doing a class on Tuesday night, this Tuesday, about meditation, and you can jump into that class if you want to. But meditation prepares the mind to, let's see how to put this, to hear the voice of spirit, if you will, to feel the presence of the greater in the body, to be available to new ideas. See, the mind, if it gets too cluttered, it gets like this, and nothing can get out or in. It's just like, it's on a loop, right? And the same thoughts over and over, and the same reactions over. But meditation starts pulling that apart very subtly, not dramatically, just very subtly. And you realize you're thinking better. You feel smarter than you used to. It awakens the center of our intelligence and the center of our being, which is our soul. It has something to do. It has something to do. Was it Emerson I quoted a few weeks ago? He said something about without a great idea or a passion, the soul has nothing to do. So we want to resurrect those passions, stir the ashes and see if that ember isn't still burning within you. So it starts with a kind of personal demand, and I've had you say this out loud before, but it's a good one. I'm going to ask you to do it again. I will be seen and known for who I really am. I will be seen and known for who I really am. Now, you can also shift it to, I am seen and known for who I really am.
I am seen and known for who I really am.
Well, let's assume, and rightfully so, that affirmations are powerful. And that when we speak above our current experience, something happens. It happens in the body, it happens in the mind. But it will require something of us. You know, the old idea of making something happen, making something manifest, like we talked about in class, a big lottery win or something. But you have to be willing to take what comes with it. And that will mean more of us will be required to interact on some level in our lives. So I am seen and known for who I really am the ego says vulnerable, but the spirit says yes. Now, that's who you are. Unafraid, don't need protecting, out there, right? That's the real self. Now that real self knows how to bring forth the highest and best in its own field of awareness. And we talk about that as the guidance of spirit. We don't want to think it's outside of us, but it isn't. It's the field that we're in and the higher aspect of us that knows no obstacles. It sees around corners, and it makes things happen in a way we call synchronicity. And it makes things happen in a way we go, whoa, I would never have thought that's how it was going to happen. But there is that field of intelligence that once we tap into it and we say, I will be seen and known, I am seen and known for who I am, and who I am is, fill in the blank. Do this in your mind right now. Who I am is. And add something onto that. Dig back in the embers of when you were little. And you may be living your passion right now, but there's more. There's always more. There's another level of it. So too many people go through life with unrealized gifts and talents, and there's nothing sadder than to have a great talent and not express it, or to be told it's not good enough. Anybody relate to that? You're too this, you're not enough of that. We relegate them to the back burner of our mind while we plow through life, paying bills, being responsible. What if someone had told us in our youth that the best thing we could do for ourselves, our family, and the world was to follow our inner guidance and do what we love? Someday you'll meet my children, Maggie and John. And John lives in Canada. He's a jewelry designer, master metalsmith worker, and a musician. Plays all kinds of instruments from all different cultures. And he's just extremely creative and talented. He paints. So when he was 8 years old, we were watching Nova. And it was open heart surgery. And he looks at me and he says, "Mommy, I could do that, but I'm never going to stay in school that long." Well, he was a gifted child, right? He was tested, he was gifted. I said, "Oh, okay." I totally trusted him, and he's living the life his heart wanted to live. He could have been anything, but what he is who he is and who he wanted to be. I am so proud of him for taking the lead of his heart and following it, and not listening to all kinds of people, teachers who said, "Oh, you should be an architect, you should be a surgeon, you should be this." I think that's what good parenting is. Plus, I didn't have a lot of resources to send him to Harvard, you know. It makes my heart feel good every time I visit him and I see the life he's living with his wonderful partner, Shuang, Chinese woman, and she's also a jewelry designer, and they just have this great artistic life. Okay, so if our goal is to be harmless, happy, and at peace with what we're doing every day, wouldn't it make sense to honor our heart? Because it knows who we are and what we're about and what the next steps for us is. I really believe, for those of you who are young parents, that children would rather have a parent who is engaged in their passion and accessible to them than one who's absent and making a lot of money and never at home, or rarely at home. It's like life is not a rehearsal, right? It's happening now. It's important for us to be present now. So what the culture has called irresponsible may well be the best use of our responsibility, our ability to respond to what's going on inside of us, our ability to respond to the world in a way that helps make the world a better place. The ability to respond to our soul and to release the light that has been trapped by our false beliefs. It often happens in service. As I said before, there's something about giving freely, joyfully, unstintingly, with a sense of being a part of something that's wanting to happen that just lights us up and teaches us about who we are. So before I came here last year, I was realizing, okay, I'm ready to jump back in and do that Irish thing. Get in the whole melee. I'm ready to get back in the game because I was semi-retired. And I was watching TV and I thought, you need to get back out there. This world needs this teaching and it needs it taught clearly. So I wrote this from my daily blog back then, and I said, when I look at the stars, I feel the mystery of the universe. The fact that it is an outdated picture only adds to the mystery because those stars aren't there anymore, a lot of them. It's the speed of light and all that. They show up when they're already dead. But I'm here now with my perception, and that's all we've got. You're sitting there right now with your perception of what's happening, and I'm standing here with a perception of what is happening. So that is what I trust, and that is all I need. As I make big decisions about where to be and how to serve, I am trusting that what is wanting to happen through me started a long time ago. 2-year-old kid. This is just the next version of it. and it's just now becoming known to me again. So the light of my deeper self is coming through, and I will follow its lead. And I wound up here. So there's a fine line between visioning our future and being present, and it's a both-and kind of thing. And it's very important that while we're here now, tending to our daily life and paying the bills and doing everything we need to do, that there is also active in us a vision at the same time. It has to be at the same time. So the vision will then inform how we interact with our daily life. See, too many of us think it's one or the other. Well, I'll get spiritual after the kids are grown. And you know, they do that in India a lot. When the children are grown, one or the other, the father or the mother, will go off to an ashram and spend the rest of their life in spiritual practice. And that's kind of their plan. Sometimes both of them do it. But here, we have a teaching that allows us to live our life and practice spirituality at the same time. This is a practice. So, the list of things we have to do in life. I want you to talk about how much we spend maintaining things. Everything, right? It's a long list, and we all know what it entails. But at the same time, it is natural and healthy to have some kind of dream for our future active in us. And it might mean seeing ourselves sailing the world or climbing Kilimanjaro or devoting our time to helping others. But the soul, once we identify it, and it doesn't have to be the whole picture, just the beginning, the soul will pull us into it. It reminds me of, I might have mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but it reminds me of Aristotle talking about the acorn and the oak tree. And he said, the oak tree actually pulls itself out of the acorn. The ideal pulls us. So world peace may be an ideal, but how do we know about it? Because it's pulling us. It wants to happen, right? It's something that's in us as a people. So the trick to a healthy vision is to make sure we are not longing for it, but that we use it to fill this moment with deeper meaning. So we're not just working to maintain our life, we're creating a foundation for all of our tomorrows. We're creating a foundation for how we experience today by our spiritual practice. So there's different stages in life, and there's a young parent stage, and there's growing up stage, and there's getting older stage, but they all have purpose. And personally, I love getting older because I just feel wiser. And things that used to just throw me don't anymore. That's one of the beautiful parts of getting older. But at every age, every stage, there's something for us to do that unlocks our secret heart, that unlocks our passion. And there's always a place to give it, and there's always people who need it, exactly what we have to give. So it's all too easy to misunderstand the be here now teaching part of our teaching. It doesn't mean that this one isolated moment is all there is. It doesn't mean that at all. But it does mean what we are thinking and feeling and perceiving now is important, that it does play into the unfoldment of what we call our future. So we're playing in the field of time and space, but also in the dimension of no time. Quantum field of potentialities that our imagination calls home, but we need to honor both realms. So it's a both and, it's an in and out. If you are not currently meditating every day on a regular basis, I would highly encourage you to do it. I can teach you how to do it if you haven't learned. If you used to do it, pick it back up. There's something about it that will unlock exactly the peace that you want right now to help you to live your passion again. And it becomes a great service to the world. It's not about sacrifice. You know, people that get burned out think they're sacrificing something to help others. It's not. It's an ongoing gift that keeps replenishing itself. You know, what you give out comes back, pressed down, multiplied, and if you have the right attitude about it. So serving the world is not a sacrifice. I always say to volunteers in any organization, you're not really coming here to give a gift. And you're not really doing what you do to get love or attention. It's nice if you get it, but that's not why you do it. You're serving. a bigger idea. And that's what we all do when we choose how we spend our time. Are we serving a bigger idea? Are we doing something that brings more love in the world, more joy, more peace? Certainly. It's an expression of our wholeness. All right, so service is some way the activation process. And we ask ourselves, do you know anyone who's down and depressed? I'm sure we all do. Do you think there's something about you that could add spark to their moment? Could you bring something into their awareness that maybe might be at the beginning point of helping them? Absolutely. I am seen and known for who I really am. Say it again. I am seen and known for who I really am. Okay, I'm going to give you another one. To honor the soul. This is a cleansing one. You might want to close your eyes and say this out loud. I willingly release any person, place, thing, situation, condition, idea or belief that could in any way prevent me from being seen and known for who I really am. You know, that's a really powerful one. Are we willing to release anything that prevents us from being seen and known for who we are? A relationship, a friendship, anything. The mind knows exactly what that means. It's not a loss. It's a clearing to make ourselves more available. So we stir the ashes of our old passion, even if you think the fire went out a long time ago. See if you don't discover some heat that's still there. The world needs us, needs you. It needs clear thinkers. It needs people who aren't fooled by appearances. It needs people who don't think God is a man in the sky, but a divine spark in every human being. We can do a great service just by being who we are. Let's go together into the field. And reawaken within ourselves that beautiful sense of I am. The one life that is spirit, is being all life, moving in and through form just for the joy of it, just because it must, just because it is nature, to be seen and known in all of its power and glory. One something being all, inhabiting every sentient life as the soul. The personification of spirit, the individualization of it, the one becoming the many, and uniquely expressing as the many, offering all that it is for our personal use. Can we use more love? Can we use more joy? Can we give more peace? Can we be more vital? Can we be more praiseful? Can we see through the appearance of lack and limitation and call forth the boundless creativity of our own spirit? Can we trust the process of whatever we're going through in the moment and know that as we proclaim that we are willing to release anything that doesn't belong with us anymore, that is a demand and moves us in and out of situations with great grace, synchronicity, and it almost feels magical. So we let ourselves be available to Spirit, as we know Spirit is always accessible through the avenue of our own mind. So here's what I know for everybody here today. There's something in you that wants to happen. And it's uniquely yours. And so I affirm today for you that it is known, that it arises, that it prompts you to act, that it informs your mind, that it pokes at you to move your feet, that you remember why you're here. And I know that from this moment on, that is active and having its way with us. With great gratitude for all of us and this place and this teaching, the world, and the goodness in every human being. We let these words fly into creativity and become something that ignites our soul once again. I am so blessed. That's what that little song is. So today we acknowledge our blessings and we give thanks for them, and we let the whole idea of resurrecting the fire take place within each one of us. From this moment on, all is well, all is good. We are so blessed, and so it is.